Maria had always known she was different. From the moment she reached her teenage years, she grew taller and broader than everyone around her. By the age of 22, she stood like a giant among the women of her village. Children stared in curiosity. Adults whispered, and strangers often looked at her twice before speaking. She never asked to be noticed. Yet her height alone made her stand out everywhere she went. Her nature, however, was gentle. She spoke softly, moved carefully, and avoided taking up space, as if shrinking herself might make others more comfortable. Instead of accepting her kindness, people often misjudged her. Some thought she looked strange, while others believed she was too big or intimidating. Maria heard every whisper, even when people tried to hide their words behind closed hands. Over the years, those comments settled deep in her heart like heavy stones. Her parents loved her, but they too felt helpless. They wanted her to marry. Hoping a husband might give her the respect the world denied her, they reached out to families in nearby towns, telling them how hardworking, honest, and caring Maria was. But almost every family asked the same questions. Is she pretty? Is she small? Is she delicate? When they heard she was tall, they would politely decline. Still, Maria's mother held on to hope. One afternoon, she returned home with excitement. She said there was a man from a distant village looking for a bride. He didn't care about beauty or size, he only wanted someone responsible and loyal. This news lit a small flame inside Maria's heart. She knew not to hope too much. But for once, the idea of being seen for who she truly was felt possible. The man and his family arrived a week later. Maria spent hours preparing. She wore her neatest dress, tied her long hair back, and reminded herself to breathe slowly. Her heart thumped when the family stepped into the courtyard. She smiled politely, hands clasped together to hide how nervous she felt. Their eyes widened the moment they saw her. The groom's mother whispered something sharply to her husband. The groom himself looked down, embarrassed, avoiding Maria's gaze. Maria felt a familiar heat in her chest, the kind that came whenever she realized she was being judged before she even spoke. Her father invited them to sit. Her mother served tea, trying to break the tension. Maria kept her posture straight, answering their questions with respect and honesty. She spoke about how she handled household tasks, how she enjoyed reading, and how she believed in living a peaceful life. But the groom's family wasn't listening. Their eyes kept drifting to her height, her strong arms, her broad shoulders. They exchanged glances again and again, as if silently asking one another what they were doing there. Finally, the groom's mother stood up abruptly. "She is very tall," she said, unable to hide her discomfort. "My son will look like a child next to her." Her words pierced through Maria like a sharp blade. The groom's father quickly added, "We didn't expect this. We thought she would be different." Without waiting for a response, they collected their bags and left. When the door closed behind them, a painful silence filled the room. Maria didn't cry. She simply lowered her eyes and whispered that she needed fresh air. Her parents called her name softly, but she kept walking toward the small stable behind the house, a place where she often hid her emotions. Inside, she sat on a wooden stool and finally let her tears flow. She wondered why the world only saw what she looked like, not who she was. She dreamed of being loved someday, not for her appearance but for the heart she carried inside. But moments like this made that dream seem far away. That night, her parents tried to comfort her. Her mother apologized again and again, blaming herself for getting her hopes up. Her father gently told her she was special and that the world didn't understand people like her. Maria smiled weakly, but deep down, she felt empty. Over the next few days, she worked harder than usual, cleaning, cooking, feeding animals, anything to distract herself. But every corner of the house reminded her of the rejection. She began to think maybe she had outgrown her home. Not physically, but emotionally. Maybe she needed a place where people didn't know her, where she could start silently, like a new seed planted in fresh soil. One morning, after a long night of thinking, Maria approached her parents. She told them she wanted to leave the village and find work somewhere far away. Her mother immediately panicked, asking where she would go, who she would live with, how she would survive. Maria tried to remain calm as she explained she had heard of ranches and farms in distant areas where workers were needed. She could cook, clean, lift heavy items, and care for animals. Anywhere she went, she would find something to do. Her father stared at her silently. Seeing the determination in her eyes, he knew she was no longer running from rejection. She was searching for her place in the world. With a heavy heart, he agreed. Her mother hugged her tightly, crying quietly, telling her to promise she would eat properly, sleep enough, and write whenever she found a chance. Maria packed only what she needed: a few dresses, a blanket, and a small wooden box where she kept her memories, a childhood ribbon, a tiny shell she once found, and a drawing she made when she was 10. She hugged her parents one last time, promising them she would return someday stronger, braver, and happier. She began her journey on foot, following the dusty road that led to larger towns. Along the way, she saw new faces, new houses, and wide open land, stretching farther than anything in her village. For the first time in years, she felt something like freedom fill her lungs. The further she walked, the lighter she felt. After several days, she reached an area known for its ranches. Horses ran freely across wide fields, and wooden fences lined the paths. Workers rode on horseback, guiding animals across the land. Everything looked simple yet lively. The place carried a calm beauty that touched her heart. She approached a small ranch with a large gate. A woman working outside noticed her and asked what she needed. Maria introduced herself politely and explained she was searching for work of any kind. The woman looked surprised mostly at Maria's height, but she didn't make any rude comments. Instead, she guided Maria to the ranch owner, a hardworking man named Daniel. Daniel listened quietly as Maria told him about her skills. He observed her carefully, not with judgment but with curiosity. He noticed her respectful tone, the confidence in her voice, and the sincerity in her eyes. He needed someone reliable, someone who didn't tire easily, someone patient enough to work with both animals and household tasks. After a short discussion, he offered her a place to stay and work. Maria felt relief wash over her. A new path had opened, one she hoped would be kinder than the one behind her. She thanked him sincerely and prepared to begin a new chapter of her life. That night, as she settled into the small guest room near the main house, Maria lay awake, listening to the quiet sounds of the ranch, the wind brushing through the trees, the distant calls of animals, and the peaceful rustle of the night. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel unwanted. She didn't know what awaited her, but she felt a soft spark inside her heart, a quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, this new place would give her the chance she had longed for. And far in the main house, a little girl named Lily peeked through her window, watching the tall new helper arrive. She didn't know who Maria was yet, but something about the gentle way Maria carried herself made Lily curious. It was a beginning neither of them understood, yet one that would change their lives forever. Maria woke up early on her first morning at the ranch. The sun had just begun to rise, spreading a soft golden light across the fields. She stepped outside and breathed in the fresh air, feeling the cool wind brush against her face. The ranch looked even bigger in daylight: wide stretches of land, tall trees, wooden fences, and animals calmly starting their day. She felt both excited and nervous, unsure of what her new life would bring. Daniel, the ranch owner, walked toward her with his usual calm but serious expression. He greeted her with a simple nod and handed her a list of tasks. Maria noticed that he wasn't rude or distant. He was just a quiet man who carried a lot of weight on his shoulders. She could see that in the way he walked, in the way he spoke little, and in the way he looked around as if checking everything twice. Her work began in the kitchen. She cleaned the counters, washed the dishes left from the night before, and prepared a simple breakfast for the workers. As she moved around the house, she noticed signs of a child: a small shoe near the stairs, a doll resting on the couch, a half-finished drawing on the table. She wondered about the little girl she had glimpsed last night. After preparing breakfast, Maria carried the trays outside to the workers' table. They paused when they saw her. Some stared at her height, others whispered quietly. Maria didn't let it bother her. She simply placed the food on the table with a polite smile. One of the older workers, an experienced horse handler named Tom, offered her a kind nod. "Breakfast looks good." "Thanks," he said warmly. It made her feel a little more welcome. When she returned to the main house, she saw Lily standing near the stairs. The little girl's dark hair was tied in 2 uneven braids, and she held a small stuffed rabbit close to her chest. She looked at Maria with wide, curious eyes, eyes that held both shyness and longing. Maria smiled softly. But she didn't approach. She didn't want to scare her. Lily quickly hid behind the staircase and peeked from the side, studying her quietly. Later in the morning, Maria helped Daniel feed the horses. She moved carefully, amazed by how peaceful the animals seemed. Daniel watched her lift heavy bags of feed with ease. "You're strong," he said quietly, not as a joke or an insult, but as a simple observation. Maria felt a warm flicker inside her chest. No one had ever spoken about her strength with respect before. Throughout the day, she continued her work, cleaning the barn, sweeping the porch, organizing the storage shed. Every now and then, she saw Lily watching her from a distance. The little girl followed Maria's movements with interest but always kept a safe space between them. During lunch, Maria sat alone outside on a wooden bench. She didn't mind the quiet. She actually welcomed it. After a few minutes, she heard soft footsteps behind her. She turned to see Lily standing there, holding her stuffed rabbit tightly. Maria smiled. "Hello," she said gently. Lily didn't respond. She just stared at her, eyes big with wonder. Maria didn't push. She simply said, "Your rabbit is beautiful." "What's her name?" Still nothing. But Lily slowly moved closer, taking careful steps, as if approaching a butterfly that might fly away. She stopped a few feet away, hesitated, and then suddenly turned and ran back toward the house. Maria couldn't help but laugh softly. She understood shy children well. Lily needed time. That evening, Maria helped Daniel with dinner. He wasn't much of a cook, but he tried his best. When Maria offered to prepare the meal, he stepped aside gratefully. As she cooked, Daniel watched her for a moment. "You work hard," he said. "It helps me feel useful," Maria replied. "You are useful," Daniel said simply, then walked away to set the table. After dinner, Maria cleaned the kitchen while Daniel tucked Lily into bed. She could hear him gently telling Lily a bedtime story, though his voice sounded tired and a little strained. She could tell he was trying his best to be both father and mother, and it made her respect him even more. As the days passed, Maria settled into life on the ranch. Each morning, she woke before the sun and completed her tasks with care. She helped with the animals, maintained the house, and cooked meals. She always worked with quiet dedication, never asking for praise, never hesitating when someone needed help. The workers began to appreciate her. Tom often chatted with her, telling old ranch stories that made her smile. Some of the younger workers asked her to help with heavy chores, and she happily assisted. Slowly, the whispers about her height faded, replaced by genuine respect. Meanwhile, Lily continued to observe Maria from a distance. Every day, she got a little braver. Sometimes, she placed her drawings on Maria's workbench before running away. Other times, she left flowers on the kitchen counter. Maria saved every drawing and carefully placed each flower in a small glass jar. One afternoon, Maria found Lily sitting on the ground outside, trying to tie her shoelaces. The little girl looked frustrated, her small fingers fumbling over the loops. Maria approached slowly. "Do you want help?" she asked softly. Lily nodded shyly without looking up. Maria sat on the ground beside her and guided her hands gently. "Like this," she said, showing her each step. Lily watched carefully and tried again. Her first attempt was messy, but her second was almost perfect. Maria clapped softly. "You did it," she said with genuine pride. Lily looked up at her, and for the first time, she smiled small. but warm enough to melt something inside Maria's heart. After that day, Lily stayed closer to her. She walked behind Maria during chores, sometimes holding the edge of her dress like a tiny shadow. She brought her drawings proudly, and even gave her a small wooden bead bracelet she had made. Daniel noticed the change. He saw how Lily laughed more, how she ate better, how she slept without crying at night. One evening, he approached Maria while she was washing dishes. "She likes you," he said. Maria's hands paused in the water for a moment. "She's a sweet child," she replied. "She hasn't been this open since." Daniel stopped mid-sentence. He didn't have to finish. Maria understood that he was thinking about his late wife. Maria nodded respectfully and continued with her work, not wanting to make him uncomfortable. She couldn't imagine the pain he carried, raising a child alone, managing a ranch, keeping everything together after losing someone so important. Over time, Daniel began to talk more. Not much, but small conversations here and there. He would ask Maria about her home, her family, her interests. She answered honestly but cautiously, not wanting to burden him with her past pain. One warm afternoon, as Maria was taking clothes off the drying line, Lily ran to her with excitement. "Maria," she said for the first time. Maria froze in surprise, then knelt down. "Yes, Lily?" Lily held up a drawing, a tall woman holding hands with a little girl. Above the drawing were two unevenly written words. "Me and you." Maria felt her heart tighten with emotion. She touched the drawing gently. "Thank you," she whispered. Lily wrapped her small arms around Maria's neck. It was the first time Lily had hugged anyone besides her father in months. Maria held her carefully, afraid to squeeze too tightly but wanting to protect her from every hurt in the world. From that moment, a bond began to form, slow, soft, and natural. Maria didn't try to replace anyone. She just offered warmth, patience, and a steady presence. Lily responded with trust, affection, and the open heart of a child who finally felt safe again. Daniel watched these moments quietly. Sometimes he stood at a distance, arms crossed, pretending he wasn't staring. But his eyes always softened when he saw Maria and Lily together. It was as if something inside him was slowly healing too. The ranch felt lighter. The air felt warmer. Maria felt, for the first time, like she was becoming part of something bigger than herself. But she also worried. She had been rejected so many times before. She wondered if she truly belonged here, or if someday someone would remind her again that she didn't. Still, when Lily held her hand or leaned against her arm during evening walks, Maria felt a sense of peace she had never known. The quiet child and the gentle woman had found comfort in each other, creating a small world where they both felt safe. Maria didn't realize it yet, but her arrival at the ranch wasn't only changing her life, it was rebuilding a family that had been broken for too long. And in the days ahead, something unexpected would happen. Something that would test her heart and shape her future in ways she never imagined. Maria had been at the ranch for months now, and life had slowly settled into a peaceful routine. She woke up early, finished her chores, cooked meals, helped with the animals, and spent quiet moments with Lily. The ranch no longer felt like a place for strangers, it felt like a home where she was slowly becoming a part of the family without anyone needing to say it out loud. Lily had changed the most. The shy little girl who once hid behind doors now walked openly beside Maria everywhere she went. She held Maria's hand while crossing the yard, sat next to her during meals, and talked more than she ever did. Her small voice was gentle, but her words were filled with innocence and trust. She told Maria about her favorite stories, the dreams she saw at night, and the memories she had of her mother, soft, warm memories that came and went, like quiet waves. Daniel watched all of this from a distance. He was grateful, though he didn't always know how to express it. He saw how Lily's smile returned because of Maria. He saw how the house felt brighter. At times, he wished he had the right words to thank Maria, but he often remained silent, afraid to say too much or too little. His heart still carried old sadness, and he didn't know how to speak past it. One evening, a storm rolled over the ranch. The wind howled through the trees, and the sky flashed with long streaks of lightning. The workers rushed to secure everything outside, and Daniel made sure the animals were safe in the barn. Rain poured so hard it sounded like stones hitting the roof. Inside the house, Maria checked all the windows to make sure they were closed. She knew storms frightened Lily, so she prepared a small lantern and placed it in her room. She folded a blanket neatly on the bed and set Lily's stuffed rabbit on top, hoping it would make her feel safe. As Maria walked through the dimly lit hallway, she heard soft footsteps and a small gasp. She turned around and saw Lily standing there, trembling slightly, clutching her rabbit to her chest. Her eyes were wide with fear, the storm flashing behind her like a giant shadow. Without a word, Lily ran toward Maria and wrapped her arms around her waist. Maria knelt down immediately and held her close. The little girl buried her face in Maria's shoulder, shaking from the loud thunder outside. "It's okay," Maria whispered, rubbing her back gently. "You're safe." "I'm here." Lily didn't let go. She remained in Maria's embrace, her breathing uneven and frightened. Maria picked her up carefully and carried her to her own room. The lantern cast a soft, warm glow that made the room feel calmer than the rest of the stormy house. Maria sat on the bed, holding Lily in her lap. She hummed softly. Not a song, just a calming sound that flowed from her naturally. Slowly, Lily's breathing steadied. Her small hands relaxed, and her head rested comfortably on Maria's shoulder. After a while, Lily looked up, her eyes still wet but filled with trust. "Maria, can I stay here tonight?" she whispered. Maria touched her hair gently. "Of course. Stay as long as you want." The storm raged outside, but inside the room, it felt peaceful. Lily curled up beside Maria, her small hand slipping into Maria's large, warm one. Maria stayed awake for hours, making sure the little girl never felt alone. She wondered if this was what motherhood felt like. Protecting, comforting, loving, without expecting anything back. By morning, the storm had passed. The sky was clear again, and the ranch smelled fresh after the heavy rain. Lily woke up, with her head resting on Maria's arm. When she opened her eyes and saw Maria smiling at her, she hugged her tightly. That day, their bond grew even stronger. Lily followed Maria with a new kind of closeness, like someone who had found her safe place. She talked more, laughed often, and asked Maria to braid her hair every morning. A few days later, something happened that Maria never expected. It was a warm afternoon, and Maria was in the garden, planting new seeds. The soil felt soft, and she worked slowly, humming to herself as she pressed the tiny seeds into the ground. Lily sat beside her, drawing something in her small notebook. After a long moment of quiet, Lily closed her notebook and looked at Maria with serious eyes. She scooted closer, touching Maria's arm with her tiny hand. "Maria?" she said softly. "Yes, Lily," Maria replied, smiling as she brushed soil from her hands. Lily hesitated for a moment, her little fingers twisted around the corner of her notebook. Her voice trembled slightly, not with fear, but with something deeply emotional. "Can you be my mama?" The question hit Maria like a soft but powerful wave. She froze, shocked. Her eyes widened, and her breath caught in her chest. She looked at Lily, who sat there innocently, waiting with hope in her eyes. Maria's heart felt like it was breaking and healing at the same time. Her throat tightened. She hadn't expected this, no. She had never even dreamed of it. She had spent so many years believing she was unwanted, believing no one would ever love her, believing she would never belong anywhere. And here was a child, pure and honest, asking her for something she never thought she could be. Tears filled Maria's eyes. She reached out and gently held Lily's hands. "Oh, Lily," she whispered, her voice shaking with emotion. "I love you so much. More than you know. But I don't know if your father would want that." Lily's face fell slightly, but she didn't let go. I feel safe with you. You are kind. You hug me when I'm scared. You help me with everything. I feel like you're already my mama." Maria pressed her forehead gently against Lily's. "You're like my little girl," she whispered. "But some things, I cannot decide alone." What Maria didn't know was that Daniel had been standing near the garden gate. He had come to ask Maria something about the horses. But when he heard Lily's words, he stopped and listened. His heart trembled as he heard Maria's soft answer. He watched the two most important people in his life holding hands, and something inside him shifted gently, like a window opening after being stuck for too long. Daniel walked away quietly, needing time to think. That night, Maria couldn't sleep. She lay awake, thinking about Lily's question. Her heart ached with love for the little girl, but it also trembled with fear. What if Daniel felt offended? What if he thought she was trying to take the place of his late wife? What if he asked her to leave? She tried to calm herself. She reminded her heart that everything would happen the way it was meant to. All she could do was continue loving Lily gently and respectfully. Meanwhile, Daniel sat alone on the porch, staring at the moonlit fields. He remembered the loneliness he had carried since his wife passed. He remembered the nights Lily cried quietly, thinking he didn't hear her. He remembered how empty the house felt until Maria arrived. Maria didn't just help with chores. She brought peace, warmth, stability, and kindness into his home. She never asked for anything. She never tried to replace anyone. She simply cared for the ranch, for him, and most importantly, for Lily. Daniel realized that he had begun to rely on her presence more than he admitted. He trusted her. He respected her. And maybe, without noticing, he had started caring for her in ways he had not cared for anyone in years. In the following days, Daniel treated Maria differently. He spoke more, stayed around her longer, and listened more carefully to everything she said. When Lily clung to Maria, Daniel no longer felt hurt, he felt grateful. One evening, after Lily had fallen asleep, Daniel found Maria in the kitchen washing dishes. He stood there quietly, watching her with a soft expression. When she noticed him, she quickly looked down, nervous. "Maria," he said gently. She looked up slowly. "I heard what Lily asked you," he continued. That day in the garden. Maria felt her heart drop. She opened her mouth to explain, but Daniel raised a hand. "You didn't say anything wrong," he said softly. "You were careful. You respected my feelings. And I'm thankful for that." Maria blinked, confused and emotional. Daniel stepped closer. "Lily loves you. She feels safe with you. And you've changed this house. You've changed us." Maria didn't know what to say. No one had ever said such things to her. Daniel looked into her eyes, his voice deep but warm. Maybe she asked a question too big for a child. But maybe it's a question worth thinking about. Not just for her, but for us. Maria stood there, breathless, her heart beating fast. Something gentle, something hopeful, something new began forming in the space between them. And in that moment, Maria felt something she had never felt before: belonging. Not because someone needed her strength, not because she was useful, but because she was wanted, truly, quietly, deeply wanted. In the weeks that followed, Amir's life slowly began to settle. But it was a different kind of life than the one he had imagined. The city around him stayed loud, restless, and unpredictable. Yet something inside him had changed. He moved through his days with a calmer heart, as if he finally understood that peace does not always arrive through perfect circumstances. It often arrives through acceptance. Every morning, he woke up a little earlier than before. Instead of rushing out the door or checking messages the moment his eyes opened, he sat near the window of his small apartment, letting the soft morning light fall on his face. He enjoyed 10 minutes of silence, thinking about nothing in particular. It was a small habit, but it cleared his mind and gave him strength for the day ahead. His relationship with his family also began to improve. He called his mother more often, not out of guilt, but out of genuine care. She would talk about simple things: the neighbor's new garden, the weather, the weekly market. Yet those conversations brought him comfort. For the first time in many years, he felt connected to home, without feeling pressured or misunderstood. His mother sensed the change too. She often told him, "You sound happier these days." And each time she said it, Amir felt a warm pride settle in his chest. At work, Amir became more focused than ever. His manager noticed that he handled tasks with new confidence. Instead of stressing over every detail, he approached each challenge step by step. He wasn't the fastest or the most brilliant employee, but he became the most consistent. People trusted him with important tasks because they knew he would not panic or give up easily anymore. His colleagues learned to come to him for advice as well. They said he had a calming presence, something rare in a busy workplace. Amir didn't think of himself as someone special, but he liked knowing that his journey had shaped him into someone stronger than he used to be. Outside of work, he took time to rebuild parts of himself he had ignored for years. He started reading again, something he once loved but had left behind when life became too heavy. The books he chose weren't complicated, they were simple stories about people finding their way through ordinary struggles. He connected deeply with those characters. Their journeys reminded him of his own challenges, and he often found comfort in their endings, even if they were bittersweet. He also started going for evening walks. The city streets were crowded, and the air was filled with all kinds of sounds. But he enjoyed watching life move around him. Sometimes he walked through the park and watched children play. Couples talk quietly, or old men sitting on benches discussing their day. Every person had a story, a struggle, and a dream. Observing them made him feel less alone. He realized that everyone carried invisible storms, yet they still managed to smile, work, and move forward. One evening, as he sat on a bench near a fountain, he found himself reflecting on how far he had come. He thought about the mistakes he had made, the moments that had broken him, and the challenges he had once believed would end him. But instead of feeling regret, he felt gratitude. Every difficult moment had taught him something important, something he needed to learn before he could become the person he was now. He began to understand that life was not about avoiding challenges but learning how to carry them without letting them destroy inner peace. Amir also repaired his relationships with friends. For a long time, he had pushed people away, believing that distance protected him from disappointment. But now he reached out, sending messages, checking in, and showing genuine interest in their lives. Some friendships picked up exactly where they left off, while others grew in new, unexpected ways. His friends noticed the growth in him, and they respected the man he had become. One friend told him, "It's like your heart has finally learned how to breathe." Amir smiled at the compliment, because it felt true. Even though life was moving in the right direction, Amir understood that he still had a long journey ahead. Healing was not a straight path, and he knew there would be days when he felt lost again. But unlike before, he no longer feared those days. He had learned how to ground himself, how to stay patient, and how to trust that storms eventually pass. One day, something unexpected happened that tested his new strength. He received a message from someone from his past, a person who had once hurt him deeply, leaving a mark he had carried for years. The message was polite, almost casual, as if nothing had happened. For a moment, old emotions rushed back, stirring memories he thought he had already healed from. His chest tightened, and his hands grew cold. But this time, he didn't react impulsively. Instead, he took a deep breath and waited. He reminded himself that he was not the same person anymore. He had learned to respond with thought, not emotion. After a few minutes, he calmly replied, keeping the conversation respectful but distant. When the exchange ended, he realized something important. He had finally let go of the past. The pain no longer controlled him. It was a memory, not a cage. This experience became a turning point. It showed him how much he had grown. His reactions were different, his choices were different, and his heart was different. He felt proud of the man he was becoming. Weeks turned into months, and Amir continued building a life filled with purpose and balance. He didn't chase perfection anymore. Instead, he embraced progress, no matter how small. Some days were peaceful, Some were tiring, and some felt heavy, but he faced each one with patience. He learned to celebrate small victories, cooking a healthy meal for himself, organizing his room, finishing a task early, or simply waking up with a clear mind. These things used to feel meaningless, but now they were signs of growth. Eventually, Amir began to feel something he had been missing for years: hope. Not the fragile kind that depends on circumstances, but the strong kind that comes from within. Hope that life could be beautiful again. Hope that he could create a future he was proud of. Hope that he could continue healing, learning, loving, and living with purpose. And as time passed, he realized something even more powerful. He was no longer waiting for life to fix itself. He was choosing, every single day, to build something meaningful with his own hands. His journey had taught him that real strength is not loud or dramatic. Real strength is quiet. It shows up in the way a person keeps going even when they feel tired, in the way they stay kind even after being hurt, in the way they choose peace even when they have every reason to be angry. Amir understood this now, and he carried this understanding with pride. One night, as he stood on the rooftop of his building, looking over the city lights stretching far into the distance, he felt a deep sense of calm. The air was cool, and the sky was clear. For the first time in a long while, he believed he was exactly where he needed to be. He didn't know what the future held, and he didn't need to. He finally trusted himself enough to face whatever came next. And just like that, his story continued, not with a perfect ending, but with a hopeful beginning.